Welcome to the Lost and Found podcast. I'm your host, Amanda. Join me each week as I rediscover my life's meaning, my passions, and my place in this world after leaving behind the only dream I've ever known. If you are dealing with self-loss, identity changes, career transitions, or you are still trying to figure out your life's purpose, then you're not alone. Join me. Wanderers are always welcome. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Lost and Found podcast with Amanda Powers. I'm so excited. We are rolling out the new branding with this first episode, and the What Now podcast is officially changed over. So there are a couple of updates. You will start to see new branding on my social media pages and on the podcast in and of itself. So you have a new icon or podcast logo you have a new podcast thumbnail with a new image and artwork on it, and our new name, the Lost and Found podcast with Amanda Powers. We decided to shorten it to give it a little bit of a stronger SEO, I guess, but also get to the core of what the show is really about. I am trying to produce a platform that is dedicated to bridging the gap between the lost and the found. I am a wanderer and trying to figure out my purpose in the life. And I think the best thing I can do to give back to other people is to help the lost meet the found. And one way that I hope to do that in the future is to interview as many people as possible that can help me become found or find my purpose, feel a little bit less lonely in this world. So that has changed. So if you noticed that when you got notifications because you're a subscriber, and if you're not, take the time right now, pause this show, go subscribe, like it, review it, and then come back and play. Everything is getting updated, so you will see those changes. But just wanted to let you know, in case you were curious, what happened to the old show. The old show's not gone. We are just using a different name and different branding now. Still same old me. How's everybody doing? Good to see you again, or good to chat with you again, I guess is the proper term. Dirks and I are hanging out here in Nashville. We got tricked last week. It was really, kind of nice and sunny on a couple of the days and felt like it was in the high 60s and everybody was in such a great mood. And now we are right back to the doom and gloom and cloudy grayness here in Nashville. So on screen, I'm wearing this gray sweater from Petula. So I'm just embracing. Hi, thank you. I'm embracing the cold because that's really the only way to survive right now and prevent myself from daydreaming about moving to Puerto Rico and living on a beach and never coming back. I could, don't twist my arm. I still could. I got time. But not a whole lot to update from last week. We are moving and grooving on the show. Met with my media booker / consultant, and we are moving forward with getting my show pitch decks ready, getting my headshots done, making a portfolio essentially for me. So that'll be great. Maybe at the end of 2025, I can start trying to pitch myself to other shows. So we'll see how all of that goes. Keep your fingers crossed for me. I appreciate all the good vibes and all the positive input and constructive input as well. If there's things that you like about the show or would wish I could do differently or something like that, it's always good to hear. I'm working on investment proposals, trying to get the finances in order, figure out how much money I actually have this year to be able to spend on the show. I want to upgrade my equipment. I think it would be so much nicer to have a better camera and lighting and at least a better microphone. The headphones are all right, but better mics I think would do me well in the long run. But it's a lot. It's kind of like a lump in my throat where I know that investing in myself is the way that I will grow, and taking risks is how I'm going to learn those kinds of business lessons. But it's really scary to watch your savings account that you work so hard for go in a different direction. So it's humbling but exciting at the same time. And we've talked about that previously on the show, that you can have what feels like two conflicting feelings. It's possible to hold space for both at the same time, but it's a very difficult thing to do because it's uncomfortable to be excited and terrified at the same time, which I guess is what anxiety is. Anxious? I don't know. Because I'm not nervous about it, but I know that my intuition keeps telling me, or at least the feeling I keep getting every time I start to think about the show, is that 2025 is going to ask a lot of me if I really want to go the places that I think I can go. 2025 is going to be a sacrifice year. So I really have to think through that. And to make those sacrifices as effective as possible, I want to be intentional with those sacrificial choices. But that leads me into the topic for today. For this week, I wanted to talk about 7 signs about growth. I have been seeing this trend go around on, and maybe you have too, I've been seeing this trend going around on TikTok and Instagram. I met myself for coffee, or I met my younger self for coffee today. And it's a little poem where you kind of go through all the things that you and your younger self would have said to each other if that was an actual thing you could do. What does your younger self look like? What does she order, or he? What does she order? What does she wear? What does she say? What are her concerns at that time versus what are your concerns as a modern day you? And I did the poem correctly, but the video I did not do correctly. So much for me being an influencer. I didn't even get the trend right. But the trend that most people I see are doing, the max length of the video is like 7 seconds, but the whole paragraph of the whole verse, all verses of the poem are just right on the screen. So that you either can't fully see the scene that's going on for the 7 seconds, or you can't fully read the words because you can see the scene, but the words are so small. So I didn't like that. I did the opposite. I did about a minute long video, and as it spanned through each different frame, the verse of the poem would change to kind of represent the conversation I was having with my younger self. And so I liked that. I liked that concept because it was a creative opportunity for me to do something I wouldn't normally do. You can look at my profiles on any of my pages. I don't really follow a lot of the trends. I don't do the TikTok dances. I don't repeat trending sounds. I don't know. I don't really. I tried one once that Alona Mar had posted on her TikTok about, I don't have Riz. I've got really big green eyes and many, many unsettling things to say, which I thought was funny for the podcast because I do have large bluish green eyes, and I am now saying a lot of unsettling things because my own parents have told me how uncomfortable it is for them to listen to the show sometimes because they feel like they're reading my diary and that they're not allowed to actually do that. But oh well. Anyway, I liked the trend. I wanted to try the trend because I thought it would be kind of a therapeutic opportunity for me to speak to my younger self, because a lot of this wellness self-help industry people, they talk about speaking to the child that you were, the 10-year-old and younger version of you. And this trend was actually just speaking to like a maybe 10 years ago version of yourself, like just starting out, like post-college-y kind of level of a person. And I really like that because it encourages people that want to participate in the trend to have an honest conversation with themselves about how far they've actually come, how much have they actually grown, or to realize how incredibly resilient you actually are. There's a lot of times when you're choosing to live in the present moment and you're trying to not freak out about the future, sometimes you disregard the past. And so that's one thing I always noticed in my fitness training and my old bodybuilding life. It was always so hard to see the progress I had made unless I had been like writing down the weights so I could track it, or like taking the photos every week so that way I could look back at week 1 versus week 12 or whatever. But you can't really do that with your career. There's no way for me to, unless you're taking photos constantly every single day of your entire life, there's no real way to go back and like fully, at least not in my mind, not in a creative, artistic way for you to go back and have that metaphor hit correctly. And so I really liked this trend and I wanted to do it because I wanted to force myself to really think about who was I at 23, 24 compared to 33, 34-ish me. And I liked it. And so I'll link it on the show notes if you want to go back and watch what I posted. But I think it would be helpful for anybody to kind of try that trend. Even if you don't post the video and you don't post the poem or something like that, or you don't really have anything that you feel like is profound to say, I don't think that's really the point. But if you took the time to actually write a poem to your younger self, I think you might be surprised with the results that come from it. So I wanted to kind of go through all of these lessons and discuss it and just kind of explain like how proud I am of myself, but also you, the listeners, because if you are listening to this podcast right now, it means that you woke up another day, you have survived another bad moment, and you've made it through all of your other tragedies. So any challenges that has been set before you, up until this moment, you've survived it. You've made it through. You've found a way to keep going and to keep showing up. And at a bare minimum, even if you're not ready to look into your past and reflect on your past, I think if you're willing to reflect on your present moment, that's amazing. And that is quite an accomplishment. So when you're feeling really low and you're only just barely making it through, moving forward is still a direction. Moving forward is still movement. It's still a pace that I think you should be proud of. If we were going to go into the cringy metaphors that I always come up with, you're sitting, if you woke up today, you're batting 1,000. You might have had really shitty days for the last 1,000 days, but you're batting 1,000. You've been knocked down 9 times, but you got up 10, as Cardi B likes to say. And that's really badass. Hey, Dirks has a bone in his mouth right now. Honey, don't make me take that away from you. Okay. Sorry. I might have to kick him out in a second. But anyway, we love him. All right. You might be going through a rough patch. You might be doubting yourself. You might be feeling lost. You might be thinking through all of these points in your life, like I should have been at this level, or I should have been here, or I should have done this by now. And it's kind of like, okay, sure, that timeline might be arbitrary based on whatever society or other people have told you what you should or should not have done by now. But you've made it this far and you should be proud, because you are probably growing more than you realize. And so I wanted to kind of go through all of these things, because if you're in that deep, dark hole, I want you to take the chance and remind yourself that I've done it before, pulled myself out before, seen this demon before. I've dealt with this phase of depression before, or a hardship like this before. I've done it before, and I can do it again now too. You are not beholden to all of your past mistakes. You are beholden to your unwillingness to learn those lessons, or your unwillingness to take charge of your own life. That's where I think we can fall short sometimes. But I wanted to kind of go through these different signs that indicate you are actually in a growth phase, even if it doesn't feel that way, because that's kind of some of the stuff I've had to remind myself about. And this trend on TikTok and Instagram triggered this and kind of reminded me, oh yeah, 10 years, the 10, 11 year ago self would be astonished. I think she'd be a little bit mortified, like, why in the hell did we sign up for this degree? Like, you're about to owe 60, 80 grand to Georgetown. Like, what? Why am I even doing this? What the hell? It's because in the moment you thought it was the right thing to do. In the moment it made the most sense. At that point in your life, it's what you were being told to do. You got to find a way to make money and survive, and getting a master's was the way to get it done. So anyway, that's a conversation for another day. Right now, we're going to go through all of these different steps. The first sign that I've noticed for how to know whether or not you're in a growth phase is you actually have increased self-doubt. Stay with me here. You are starting to question your beliefs and your choices. You are evolving and reevaluating what's actually aligning with you. And when you have this increased self-doubt, it's not necessarily the imposter syndrome, like, oh, I don't know if I deserve this, or this isn't meant for me, or something like that. I'm talking about, I don't know if this belief system aligns with who I am and who I want to be anymore. Or I don't know if this career path is the right choice for me anymore. Or I don't know if staying here in this stable environment is actually going to make me happy. I'm talking about those kinds of things. Your beliefs about yourself and what you want out of life have started to evolve, and you are questioning the choices that you're making and whether or not they align with your true self. That's important self-doubt. That's self-reflective, right? And having an increased amount of times or an increased amount of moments where you are wrestling, I guess, with your self-doubt, it's a good sign. It means that you are being more introspective. You're building self-awareness, which some people never get to. So consider yourself ahead of the curve, at least in that aspect. Sign number 2 that you are actually going through a growth period is you need more rest. So your body and your mind are requiring more energy from you. You're going through all these kinds of transitions. You're making all these mental steps that are going differently for you. Your need to heal is now far more important to you than your need to push yourself almost over the edge, or push yourself to extremes, or live in a all or nothing lifestyle. That no longer appeals to you. You're actually unlearning and closing these toxic patterns. You are breaking all these old habits and breaking previously bad habits to build up better habits takes energy. Like, have you ever met someone that's going through their weight loss journey, or somebody that did the 75 hard, and like how crazy that extreme that lifestyle is to just cut a whole bunch of stuff and add a whole bunch of new quote unquote better habits into your life for 75 straight days? The amount of dedication and effort that it takes to rebuild an entire lifestyle from the ground up is incredibly difficult. And to maintain that habit is even harder past the original expiration date that you set for yourself, the 12 weeks or the 75 days, whatever it is. Closing a trauma loop, cutting out toxic choices, letting go of relationships that you may not have needed. It is exhausting. And at the bare minimum, you want to get right back down to the root of it. When you are growing, like gaining weight for a competition, you're trying to put on mass, you're growing a baby because you're pregnant, like you're creating life in that sense. You're forcing your body to evolve. The number one thing other than eating right, the number one thing for recovery is sleep. The thing that's going to help you is rest. So if you're giving up your extremist lifestyle and your toxic behaviors, your body actually needs more rest. As a disclaimer, we are not discounting psychological issues. So if you're going through mental health concerns and you are sleeping an absorbent amount more because of depression or manic depression, bipolar issues, like that's completely different. I'm talking about you have decided to rest more because your body needs it, and you're not willing to push yourself to the extremes anymore because you've realized that it's not actually as effective for getting you to the goal that you want. Sign number 3 that you are in a growth period is you have set stronger boundaries and you are possibly receiving more backlash to those boundaries. So this typically means that you have decided on something new, or you want something new in your life, or you have realized, hey, this actually bothers me, or this doesn't align with what I want out of life anymore. I'm going to draw my line in the sand. And so you start making those changes in your life to make sure that that boundary is well established, that foundation is laid well, and that you're going to honor that boundary repeatedly for yourself. And now that you've set that boundary, the manipulative or toxic people in your life that used to be okay with and looked forward to abusing that boundary or taking advantage of that lack of a boundary, those controlling people are getting upset. And they are used to being able to take advantage of that from you, but they can no longer do that anymore. And so they're sending you backlash and, lashing out at you for setting that up. So because you're trying to do something healthy and it's no longer convenient for their life, they're frustrated with you. And taking control of your own life actually gives you your power back. And out of all of these growth phases that I've been going through lately, learning how to recognize where my control actually is so crucial. And accepting where my control is gives me so much power in my choices, in my destiny. And knowing that I have more power than I realize has helped a lot and helped dissipate the nervous or scared feelings that come with your self-loss. And so if people start pushing back on you when you say no, it means that you are setting those healthier boundaries and you are protecting your peace like never before. And this will help you succeed tenfold. Sign number 4 that you are in a growth phase, you are feeling more emotional. So this will come up a lot. If you're an avid listener to the show, you know that I can be relatively emotional, or at least very honest about the actual emotions that I'm having when it comes to this show and the feelings that have come up by essentially going through my own version of what I believe to be self-therapizing, essentially. But the point of this is that one of the best ways to know that you're growing is that you are becoming more emotional. And growth often brings up very buried feelings and emotions. If you've suddenly just become more emotional and sensitive to your life and your choices and the people around you, it's a sign that you are actually healing and not regressing. Letting yourself overflow with emotions is often like the metaphor I'm sure you've seen on social media where people hold up a glass and it's full of dirty water or there's soil, or some people do wine in the glass or something like that, where the initial water that's in the glass is dirty and you can't see through it. And when you're going through a healing process or a growth phase or therapy to help you deal with those traumas and emotions and self-doubts and negative thoughts and stuff, you can't pick up the glass and pour it over, because then there's nothing left in it and then you're empty. The only way to clear out that dirty water is to continue to pour positive, clean thoughts into the glass. And so people get rid of the dirty water by putting in clean, clear water, and you have to watch the video as they pour the clear water into the dirty glass. The dirt slowly, or the wine slowly, fills from the bottom of the glass back up to the top. And eventually the clean water is the only thing that's flowing into the cup and into the glass and staying there. And so when you are doing stuff like that, that is how it actually feels in real life. Like you can go back and listen to some of my earlier episodes. I am very upset and sad and frustrated and angry and confused. And I still am to a certain extent, but not to the same way that I used to be. And it's very painful to listen to those podcast episodes, because you can hear it. You can hear how much pain I'm in. But every single episode that I set out and put out into the universe, that is my version of pouring clean water back into that dirty glass. When you let yourself overflow like that, dirty water versus clean water, it's real. You know, you're letting out so much, whatever you want to call it, baggage, dirt, trauma, negative thoughts. You're letting it all go, so that way you can fill yourself up with fresh perspectives, fresh ideas, fresh wants, fresh, renewed boundaries, better understanding how you want to align your life and into your true purpose. It's really important. So you might be feeling more emotional lately because all this stuff is bubbling up to the surface and spilling out of your glass, but it actually means that you're just letting go of the things that once hurt you. And it frees up your time and your ability to chase the things that are going to actually now fulfill you. So being more emotional lately isn't necessarily a bad thing. It means you're going through that real life water cleanse, essentially. Sign number 5 that you're going through a growth phase is that you are actually feeling lost or uncertain. This seems counterintuitive, I know, because when you're feeling lost or uncertain, you have a lot of feelings of like stagnation or being stuck or trapped or unable to kind of make a decision about where to go next or what to do next. And actually, what I've been reading about and seeing on social and through my own processes and stuff too, when you're feeling lost or uncertain, growth is requiring a period of questioning everything about yourself and your choices and the direction you want to go in. And it means that when you're feeling lost or uncertain, you're actually outgrowing an old version of yourself. During a phase of loss and uncertainty, more often than not, you are mentally and emotionally shedding a different version of you. It's a common human experience, because when you're shedding an old version of yourself, you're having to let go of who that person was and leaving them behind to become who you were meant to be. And I think one of the most complicated feelings I've ever had about it is grief. So the grief surrounding who I used to be and having to meet who I'm going to become and being uncertain about whether or not I even like them. Am I going to like them? Is that the right thing? Should I spend that time becoming them? I used to like her. She was great. Why is she no longer the best fit? Why is she no longer the right one for me, or he, depending on who you are if you're listening? Why is the old me no longer the right fit for me anymore? And a growth period is going to require you to level up. You may have seen this on social too, where people have been passing around the phrase like your new life is going to cost you your old one. And so that feeling of loss and uncertainty and confusion and not knowing where to go is actually so much more common than you think. And you're not alone. Transition periods like this are indicative of the human experience. This portion of your life where you are being uncomfortable and you are moving into the next chapter is so essential to who you are and who you're meant to be. I've had to come to terms with feeling lost or uncertain in my life wasn't necessarily a punishment. Like, it wasn't like I had done something wrong and therefore the universe was like, oh, you dumb bitch. Like, haha, here you go. Here's some darkness and clouds and depression and confusion and scarcity and fear and self-doubt. And it's throwing all these things at me like, oops, wrong door. Like, or, it's not like I'm not on a game show. I'm not missing at that, oh, I didn't pick the wrong door. I didn't do whatever. It's just, I did not expect this period of, this is one of the biggest growth periods I think I've ever had, where, it's different to jump from being a kid to a teenager to college to young adult, like to now being in your 30s. Like those were jumps in maturity and emotional intelligence and things like that. But up until the last few years ago, I always knew what I was supposed to be doing. And to be challenged at that kind of level, this is the most significant growth period I've ever experienced. And I'm starting to, come to the understanding that actually this feeling of loss and uncertainty means that I am outgrowing an old version of myself, and I am shedding that identity and letting it go. And grieving that is uncomfortable, but not abnormal to a transitional experience. That's so crucial when you're worried about whether or not you're improving your life or moving forward the way you thought you would be moving forward. If you are having these moments of these doubts and you are feeling lost and uncertain, that's a huge indicator that you are about to take off onto a new trajectory. But sitting with that uncomfortable feeling is a requirement. You can't skip that step. You can't advance through to another level. You have to go through it in order to become the person you are meant to be. Sign number 6 that you are in a growth period is that you are making decisions that feel right for you, but may look wrong to others. Let me break that down. It's entirely possible that you're going through a growth phase where you are finally choosing yourself, choosing your wants and your needs, maybe even for the very first time, and you're having anxious or urgent thoughts, and they're trying to push you to make some snap decisions. But when you're in the middle of a growth phase and you're developing a connection with your intuition and you're leaning into that and you're trying to listen to it and follow through on it, your intuition is actually going to act a lot more like a peaceful friend. There's going to be just a less intense, more gentle pull towards your purpose. And I believe JB Copeland, he's a content creator on Instagram and YouTube. He runs the Mr. Sappy account and Sappy House podcast, or Sappy House show maybe. And he interviews people and does a lot of face-to-face camera work and stuff. But on his page, he talks a lot about how your intuition can act like a soft pull towards your purpose. Your intuition's never going to be the person's that's shoving you in a corner and turning you into an anxious animal trying to like, okay, let me lash out just to get this to go away. Your intuition would never do that. It's your anxiety and your fear that pushes you into the fight or flight modes. Because your intuition's going to act a bit more like a peaceful friend, it wants you to move in the direction that's right for you. I'm sure people in my family and maybe even some of my friends probably saw me start this show and they were probably like, wait a second, weren't you at the FBI? Weren't you doing like some badass secret agent-y shit, in DC? And I had to again clarify, no. No, I wasn't. My life was not like Hollywood. My life was not like TV. No, I am no longer doing that. I had to leave. I had to make some changes. And I'm sure to a lot of people, they probably did doubt that. And they're like, wow, she wants to go and be an influencer, or she wants to go and be online all the time. Like, aren't they saying being online is really bad for you? Or we're so oversaturated. There's hundreds of thousands of podcasts, or millions probably at this point. I know that this outlet or this form of communication may not make sense to a lot of other people. And it may not make sense to a lot of other people, especially when they're using their frame of mind or reference about who they think I am as a person. But I didn't make this decision for them. I didn't make this decision for their approval. I didn't make this decision for their preferences. I made the decision for me. I'm doing it because it felt right to me. That year and a half ago, or a little over a year and a half ago, like, it made sense to me. It made me feel better. It made me feel like I was at least doing something about addressing the way that I felt about myself and about my life. And that was so much more important. Even if this ends up going nowhere and I'm just on the internet for, another 10 years just talking, if it makes me happy and then it's the right decision for me. It doesn't really matter what other people are thinking about it or what they think about me or my choices. Again, assuming whatever you're doing that makes you happy, assuming that you're not acting out of malicious intent, you're not openly committing crimes against society and things, you're not harming yourself or others around you, then your decision of how to move forward or how to change your life, change the direction of your life, it doesn't really matter if it makes sense to other people or not. What matters is whether or not you can listen to your intuition and follow the pull. Can you agree and be willing to be pulled into the direction of your destiny? Are you open to making the decisions that'll let you align with that life? And if you are, great, keep going. Do what makes you happy. Do what makes you feel good. But if you are worried about whether or not people are going to come along, you're never going to get anywhere. And definitely not fast, because you're trying to carry people with you that don't actually want to be there. And that's a waste of your time. You don't want those people around in your life if all they're going to do is question every single decision that you make. It's already hard enough to change your life and move the direction of what you want in a different way. Don't bring people along with you that are not there to champion your efforts, to champion your growth, to champion your decision to do what was right for you. It's so crucial to your growth. And then sign number 7, the final sign that you are in a growth phase, is that you are willing to sacrifice instant gratification for your longer term goals. So maybe you've matured a bit. You've changed your mind about not chasing the shiny thing or the materialistic thing anymore. And you have decided to give up what feels good in the moment for what's going to be best in the long run. And that takes, well, again, sacrifice, takes dedication, it takes discipline and commitment to your original goal or your original why, your original purpose to these changes. Once you have assigned this new meaning and this new decision to go with this new alignment, what once appealed to you is no longer a temptation. You're letting go of all of these should statements from your life, and you are going with what feels right or aligned with your intuition instead. It might feel great in the moment, but if it makes you feel bad an hour or two later, a couple days later, I don't know if that metaphorical hangover is worth it. Because if you're saying I'm ready to change and I want this new alignment and I want to have a better lifestyle, I want to take care of my health, I want to be more creative, or I want to get more outside my comfort zone, and yet you stay home all the time, you're not out meeting new people, you're not dating, you're not putting yourself out there, you're not going to the gym, you're not buying your groceries, you're not cooking your food, you're not drinking less, you're not smoking less, like whatever it is to improve that lifestyle choice, saying it but not following through on the actions is just going to take you that much longer to get to where you want. It's going to be that whole 2 steps forward, 1,000 steps back situation every single time you break that promise to yourself that you don't want to. You say you want to align your life in a better way, and yet you're not willing to sacrifice that instant gratification, that instant pleasure trigger for something that's more long-term, that will be better. It'll taste better. It'll feel better. It'll look better. It'll be happier. You'll be proud of who that person is down the line. But in order to get to that person down the line, you have to be willing to make those changes now. And a lot of that sometimes can feel really daunting. And I think one of the first steps, this tip kind of actually came from, I don't know if anybody listens to the Almost 30 podcast. I've listened off and on, but not consistently to their show. But I did see that they are releasing a book later this year, so I'll probably read that when it comes out this summer. But one of their tips for growth and how to, wrap your head around feeling stuck and what to do about it. One of the tips that they suggest from that show is letting go of all these should statements in your life, writing down what you believe you should be doing, and then questioning, the who, what, when, where, how to that should statement, each one. Why do I feel that way? Who told me to feel that way? What am I expecting out of myself to meet that standard? Or what can I do to change that should statement? Or, how am I going to either follow through on that should statement or pivot my life to what better aligns to what I actually want? And so this could be anything like, you're feeling lost and confused about where you are at your life right now because I should have had a stable career by now. I should have found my life's purpose by now. I should have found the one, and I should find the one and get married soon. I should have a certain amount of money at this point. I should be a vegan, or I should intermittent fast, or I should hit 5 days a week, even though I hate it, or whatever health goal it is that you've been striving for. I should go out with my friends and have another drink with them because that's what everybody else is doing anyway. Or I should be on the dating apps because I need to be meeting more people, blah, 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 blah. you write up whatever list you have for your shoulds and look at that list and realize, oh wow, there's a whole lot here that's telling me what I should be doing, but not really how to live or how to get to these places. It's just a lot of you should do, you should do, you should do. Okay, but if I do these things that all these people or society or my internal thoughts have been telling me to do, are they really helpful? Are they actually what I want out of my life? Should I have a stable career right now? Or do I like bouncing around? Or do I like being an entrepreneur and doing something on my own? Should I have found my life's purpose? Okay, why do I care so much about my life's purpose in this exact moment? What if my purpose in my 20s was to do X, Y, and Z, or my purpose in my 30s was to do more of the volunteer work, but then my purpose in my 40s was actually to stay at home and be a full-time mom because I had kids eventually and it was too hard to do both. Like, what if your purpose evolves, right? So maybe you're for whatever reason, you haven't found your life's purpose because your life's purpose changes based on the season you're living in. I should have found the one and I should get married soon. It's like, okay, going out and finding the one, but forcing yourself to do it when just for the sake of doing it may not make you happy in the long run. If 50 or 60% of marriages are ending in divorce these days, that's a big risk. Is that really what you want to put yourself through by being with the wrong person? I don't know. Should that really be the priority? Or should your priorities be, I'm willing to sacrifice instant gratification, which can come from a dating app. You're swiping, it's very gamified. Instant gratification of just going on a bunch of first dates versus I really want to invest in myself. My long-term goals are to build up more hobbies. My long-term goals are to get back into running or to join a dance group or to join like a local restaurant group or something like that. Like, I don't know. You want to get back into doing an activity. For me, like if I were to sign up for soccer again, like an adult league and go play, I'm very rusty, but like it would be a really good way for me to give back to myself. I'm working out, I'm meeting people, I'm getting out of the house, I'm building up who I am by doing things that I love versus doing things that I quote unquote should be doing just because it'll give me the instant gratification of validation from someone else. Getting my own happiness and validation from external factors is not sustainable, and I know that. So why should I follow these should statements if it's not actually going to lead me to my long-term goal? And I won't be happy with who I am at the end of that goal. I loved these notes for growth because to me it indicated that as uncomfortable as this phase is in my life right now, I can take solace in the fact that I am actually moving forward and I am improving and I am growing and becoming a better person because I am dealing with all these different signs. I have felt all of these different things. I have been more emotional. I have been setting more boundaries. I have been making decisions that make sense to me, but maybe not to others. I am resting more often. I'm not pushing myself to the workout extremes that I used to. I have a lot of self-doubt. I second guess almost every decision I want to make for this show, but as soon as I make a decision, it feels better. As soon as I just make a choice, I'm okay with the fact that maybe it might not be the right choice, but at least I'll learn a lesson and be able to pivot because I've taught myself how to pivot now. And that's a really good thing. I am giving up more of the instant gratification situations. I am dropping these should statements that no longer serve me, that don't align me with my purpose. I don't know if I'm necessarily more emotional than normal. I think I'm learning to accept the fact that I am an emotional person, and me being emotional doesn't actually make me weak or less than. It's a sign of intelligence, but taking my emotions more seriously and learning how to regulate them and feel them, but not let them take hold of my entire being is so crucial, and that is a sign of growth. That is a sign that I am setting the tone for my life. I am setting the intentions for what it is that I want and what I am going to accomplish today, this week, this month, this year. Your next move is yours and yours alone, and that power of choice is so helpful when you're feeling so lost and so uncertain about what to do. And you can ask yourself, are we going into this week with strength, clarity, and peace? Or are we hiding, shaming, and diminishing our own light? Because I would be so disappointed if you were crushing your own dreams before they even had a chance to flourish. It would be so disappointing if you were denying yourself a better life before it even had a chance to take off because you're so consumed with staying in the suck or not recognizing the power of a growth phase. It's uncomfortable. It's frustrating. The transitions are confusing, but there's so much power in your ability to choose what to do next. There's so much power in your ability to lean into your intuition and choosing what's right for you and not listening to what anybody else says. Again, within reason. There's no excuse to go and be an asshole while you're trying to figure out who you are and what you want out of life. Don't do that. Don't lean into being a jerk. Going through a growth phase does not excuse jerks, but I wanted to share these signs that you're going through a growth period, actually. All these different feelings that look detrimental. If you can flip the perspective, they're not as detrimental as you actually think they are. These are great milestone moments that are happening to you that are part of this transition. And you can take solace in the fact that this growth period means there was a beginning and an end. It's up to you to figure out how to align all of these changes to who you want to become. But that's all, folks. I will link some additional resources, some other podcasts that I listened to this week that were really helpful for me, that kind of opened my eyes to some of these topics. Any of the other either influencers or books that I think could be useful for you, I will add that in the show notes. But I love you, mean it. I'm so glad that you were here. Thank you for listening to the show. Thank you for supporting me and through this journey. I wouldn't be here without you. And I hope that what I can offer the wanderers is helpful. You know, sharing my side of the journey is beneficial, and it helps you feel less alone in the world. But as always, you know the drill. Like, subscribe, leave a review, share this with your friends, aunties, uncles, cousins, nieces, grandkids, grandparents, anybody you think that could benefit from this, anybody that might be going through a period of self-loss and identity crises and trying to figure out where to go next and what to do with their life and whether or not they have purpose anymore. They do. So share this, spread the love and the light, and I appreciate you more than you'll ever know. All of my contact info will be in the show notes, all the links, and we're on YouTube now. You can go and subscribe on YouTube. I'm working on getting more videos up every day. Eventually we'll have a website. I will let you know once that is there. But yeah, go check it all out. If you're looking for discount codes on any of the products that I use or talk about on the show, those will also be linked. And feel free to ask me any questions. You can send me an email, hello@podcastforthelost.com, or all of my social media will be linked there too. But DM me anytime. I will do my best to get back to everyone and answer questions. But have a wonderful day, week, wonderful day, evening, night. I don't know whenever you're listening to this, but just remember, wanderers are always welcome.